Yemi Cardoso, who is the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, did give a speech, made his debut at the CIBN on Friday evening. And I have right now joining me to dissect the speech, Tajudeen Ibrahim, who is the Director of Research and Strategy at Chapel Hill, Denham. Hello, Tajudeen, and welcome to the program.
Hello, Nancy. Thank you so much for having me again on the program.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your patience. You know, so many things to look at on on the show, so it's like I'm constantly, following up those things. The things are just chasing me up and down, but
Yes, I can imagine.
let's see what we can do in the next few minutes. Has the silence been finally broken? Was Cardoso's speech comforting for you? Did it give a sense of direction to Nigerians as well as the markets and stakeholders in the financial sector? What do you think?
So, in my view, I think that was so much what the public needed, and also what the international economy also needed to hear from the new CBN, governor. My sense is that the speech was remarkable because it touched on a review of macroeconomic indicators as well as market indicators as well as banking sector indicators. And possibly more importantly, the speech also touched on forward-looking guidance for businesses in the country, for the banking sector, for investors. So I see the speech delivered by Cardoso as a remarkable one in those respects. In those respects, and I believe that it's just sort of addressed and finally broke the silence about the CBN governor addressing the public. I think the speech was indeed commendable.
Were there gaps for you? Did he address everything uh, for you in that speech?
My, my sense is there are some fundamental issues, that have been in the minds of, the economy, particularly businesses in the economy. And, some of the key fundamental issues were touched on in the speech. One of them is the foreign currency market and how the CBN has decided to solve all the problems in that space by coming up with innovative ways of addressing some of those challenges. Lending to MSMEs, small businesses, medium enterprises is another key element that the central bank governor identified. And it is interesting that you have just concluded an interview, with the CEO of Sterling Bank as well as the DG of Smedan. So those elements, in my view, are important if we really want to lift this economy to its potential in terms of growth. You cannot leave the small and medium enterprises behind without financing them, without supporting their business needs. He also touched on that and is going to collaborate with the relevant organizations such as Smedan, for instance, and a couple of others. It was also interesting that the CBN gave some forward-looking guidance in terms of for how long are we going to have a tight monetary policy, and the guidance speaks to the next 2 quarters, which means that over the next 2 quarters, businesses can plan around a tight monetary policy. Investors can also plan around a tight monetary policy. And after those 2 quarters, the broad expectations will be that in the second half of 2024, we will possibly be in an accommodative or expansionary monetary policy, period. And that period, the economy will be seeing the positive impact of the policies of the government and also of the policies of the central bank. So I think I like all those elements around the speech by by Cardoso. Yeah.
Now, isn't it a contradiction that the central bank governor is talking about tightening monetary conditions, interest rate at 18.75%, and as well as even increasing access to credit for small businesses in the same speech? You just alluded, I just finished a very important interview concerning small businesses in Nigeria, what the banking sector is doing, and the agency of government in charge of MSMEs in Nigeria. So isn't that a contradiction? Because if you're
So
saying that monetary policy rate at 18.75%, borrowing from banks definitely will be higher. Banks will not have so much money because they have 32.5% of their monies domiciled at the CBN in terms of CRR. So how do you really balance that?
I think we have to take a look at it over, a time horizon, from a time horizon standpoint. In between now and the next 6 months, which is more like a short term, we are going to have a tight monetary policy. Let us bring inflation into this picture. What we currently have is elevated inflation number, 27.33% for the month of October. But we recognize that inflation on a monthly basis is trending downwards. And the outlook for 2024, so far the numbers that we have run at Chapel Hill Denham, those numbers are looking like inflation is going to further moderate on a monthly basis. So those monthly moderations, if we capture them, and the impact of elevated base for this year, we are possibly going to be talking about inflation moderating from like after the next 2 to 3 months of next year, if there is no other systemic shock. And I think what could have been a shock, all those elements have been addressed. The first thing that could have been a shock is the PMS price. The subsidy has been removed. Another thing that could have been a shock is an exchange rate instability. That problem has been addressed. So if you capture all those and we remove them from the equation, my expectation is that inflation is going to begin to moderate from next year. What will that do to monetary policy? What that is going to do is to embolden the CBN Monetary Policy Committee to begin to consider an expansionary monetary policy. And that is when we expect credit flow to the private sector to begin to rise. That is when we expect interest rates to begin to moderate. That is when we expect liquidity in the financial system to begin to increase. As we speak, we're in a tight liquidity condition, situation. Liquidity is as low as like 100 billion as reported by the CBN. So all those elements are what I believe we should look forward to. They will not happen very soon. They will happen much later in second half, possibly, of 2024.
Okay. All right, Tajudeen, I think we'll leave it at that for now. Thank you very much for your perspectives, and let's see what happens at least in the next few weeks, at least almost the end of the year. And Cardoso has given us a clue that MPC has been done 4 times this year. In fact, I had to look at the CBN Act again. I had to read it over the weekend, and I saw that. I said, oh, the CBN is really smart in saying that 4 times a year, and they've done it. But it's okay. That will be a conversation with Cardoso himself very soon. So thank you very much for being on the program, and thank you for your patience.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.